I never planned to reveal my true success at Vanessa's wedding. Honestly, I didn't even want to attend. But how could I say no to Mom? She insisted, "It's your sister's big day, Rachel, at least show up looking decent." So I did. In a simple navy dress, heels that didn't scream boardroom, and a quiet smile I'd practiced for years, the Grand Plaza Hotel was as over the top as expected. Crystal chandeliers glittered like icicles above, long tables overflowed with roses and candles, and waiters floated through the crowd with trays of champagne. Vanessa had always been obsessed with appearances, and this wedding was her masterpiece. I stayed near the back of the ballroom, close to the marble columns and far from the spotlight. That was always my place in this family, present but never seen. From across the room, I could hear bursts of laughter and clinking glasses as guests congratulated Vanessa, the youngest VP at Sterling Industries and now the bride of Ethan, co-son of the CEO himself. My mother found me, as she always did, just when I thought I'd be left alone. "There you are," she said, her voice sharp as her perfectly tailored dress. "Why are you hiding back here? People have been asking about you." "I'm just taking it all in," I replied lightly, sipping champagne. Her eyes flickered over my outfit. "You look fine," she said, lips pursed. "But you could have worn something more polished. Vanessa's wedding is a big event." I nodded, biting back every response I'd trained myself not to say. Just yesterday, I'd chaired a board meeting that determined the future of a Fortune 500 company. But no one here knew that. As far as my family was concerned, I worked for a small consulting agency. Nothing serious, nothing impressive, and that's how I liked it. Until tonight. Mom sighed dramatically. "You know, consulting is okay, but it's not success. Not like what Vanessa's done. VP at Sterling before 30, marrying into one of the most powerful families in the industry? That's success." I smiled politely, feeling the weight of the antique locket around my neck, my grandmother's, the only person who ever believed in me when no one else did. "Sure, Mom," I said. "That's one kind of success." She didn't hear me. She was already turning toward the crowd, already drifting back toward Vanessa's spotlight, and I stayed in the shadows. Just for a little longer. Because the spotlight? It was about to shift, and no one, especially Vanessa, was ready. "Rachel." Her voice boomed across the ballroom. Vanessa, flawless in her custom-designed gown, glided toward me with a champagne flute in one hand and Ethan, her brand-new husband, in the other. "Still hiding in corners at parties?" she asked, her smile sharp. "Some things never change." Ethan chuckled, clearly amused by the dig. "She told me you still work at that tiny firm. What's it called again? Rainbow Consulting or something?" "Aurora," I corrected calmly. Vanessa waved her hand dismissively. "Right, that boutique one. Still doing small business workshops and freelance stuff? That's cute." My fingers tightened around my glass, but I kept my tone even. "It keeps me busy." Vanessa leaned in slightly, just enough for the nearby guests to hear. "You know, Mom and Dad were actually worried about you for a while. No husband, no real career. But at least you're trying. Independence counts for something, even if it doesn't pay much." Ethan laughed again, louder this time. "She's fierce, though. Vanessa told me how you were always the smart one. Just didn't translate into success, I guess." The words didn't hurt the way they used to. Not anymore. I had heard some version of this story my entire life. Back in high school, I was the overachiever. Valedictorian, scholarships, summer programs. Vanessa? She barely scraped by. But she had charm, and charm opens doors when paired with the right connections. Dad made some calls, got her an entry-level job at Sterling, and from there, she climbed. Not because she was the smartest in the room, but because the room had already been set up for her. Meanwhile, I was told to be realistic. "Ambition is great, Rachel, but someone has to do the smaller jobs. Not everyone can be a leader." That's what they used to say. Even now, Vanessa was playing her role, the golden child, the prodigy, the center of attention. And I was still the other daughter. She clinked her glass against mine with a bright smile. "Well, here's to you, sis. May your little company bring you joy, if not money. I smiled back. Oh, it does, I said, more than you know. Because what they didn't know was everything. As the night wore on, the ballroom glowed warmer, richer, the champagne flowed freely. Guests laughed louder, voices blending into a hum of celebration. And at the center of it all, Vanessa radiated like royalty, soaking in every compliment, every admiring glance. Then came the moment she'd been waiting for. She stepped onto the small platform near the band and tapped her glass with a spoon. The room quieted. I just wanted to thank everyone for coming tonight, Vanessa beamed, especially since someone very special is joining us shortly. Richard Cole, the CEO of Sterling Industries, has agreed to stop by. He never attends employee events, but she shrugged with mock humility. I guess I'm not just any employee. Polite applause followed, a few murmurs of admiration. Vanessa descended, glowing with pride. Richard is here because he values what I bring to the company, she whispered as she passed me. Some of us are actually making things happen, you know. I didn't reply. Because I did know. I knew exactly why Richard Cole was coming. He hadn't returned my emails for weeks. He was too busy trying to get a face-to-face meeting with my company's CEO. I had delayed, strategically, letting the pressure build, letting them sweat. He didn't know the CEO he was chasing would be standing in this ballroom, right now, wearing a navy dress. And then, it happened. The double doors swung open. A hush rippled through the room like a sudden draft. Richard Cole entered with quiet authority, tall, silver-haired, perfectly tailored, the kind of man who didn't need to raise his voice to command attention. Vanessa straightened instantly, tugging Ethan beside her. She looked like a student preparing to meet the principal. But Richard didn't look at her. He scanned the room, and his eyes locked on me. A flicker of surprise, then recognition, then something else. He moved forward, brushing past Vanessa and Ethan without a glance. "Mr. Mitchell?" he said, extending his hand with genuine warmth. "I didn't expect to see you here." Dead silence. My family froze. My mother's glass hovered mid-air. Ethan looked from Richard to me and back, confused. Vanessa's smile faltered like a candle in the wind. I accepted his handshake. "Richard," I said with calm precision, "good to see you." His smile widened. "We've been trying to get on your calendar for weeks. If I'd known you were attending this wedding, I'd have sent the proposal here." I could feel every eye in the room turn toward us. Vanessa's wedding had just become my stage. Vanessa blinked, frozen mid-step. She looked between me and Richard like she'd misheard something. "Wait, you two know each other?" she asked, her voice rising slightly. Richard turned toward her, finally noticing the bride. "Oh, you must be the one who works at Sterling." Vanessa forced a smile. "Yes, I'm Vanessa. Vanessa Mitchell. Rachel is my younger sister." There was a pause. And then, almost too casually, he asked, "You didn't tell me your sister was the CEO of Aurora Consulting." Vanessa blinked again. Sorry, what?" Richard frowned slightly, genuinely confused. "You didn't know?" He looked back at me, a little awkward now. "I assumed your family knew who you were." I took a sip of champagne and smiled politely. They knew I worked in consulting. I never said more, and they never asked. Silence exploded through the ballroom louder than any music. Ethan stepped forward, stammering, "Wait, you? Run Aurora? As in Aurora Consulting Group?" I nodded. "Founder, CEO." Vanessa's jaw dropped open, but no sound came out. My mother dropped her clutch. You told us it was a small firm," she whispered. "It started small," I said calmly, 12 years ago, out of a shared office in Queens. Now we advise half the Fortune 500. Richard nodded. "Your daughter's firm has been a major player for years. We've been pushing for a meeting to discuss a merger. Sterling is in a tight spot financially, and Aurora has what we need." Vanessa's voice finally returned, but it cracked under the weight. "Merger? What merger?" I turned to face her directly. "Aurora has been considering acquiring Sterling for months. You didn't know?" "No." Her voice was shrill now. "No one told me." I met her eyes. Maybe because you never saw me as someone worth informing. Just your little sister with the cute job. Ethan looked pale. So, you're the one our board's been desperate to reach. My smile turned cold. That's right. Vanessa took a step back, as if the marble floor had tilted beneath her. Around us, the wedding crowd had gone from stunned to stunned silent. Some guests stared, others whispered, a few pulled out phones. My parents stood motionless. Their golden child had just been eclipsed by the one they never truly saw. And the spotlight Vanessa loved so much was finally shining where it always should have been. A few minutes later, I found myself in a side room just off the main ballroom, a velvet-draped lounge meant for bridal parties, now serving as a makeshift war room. Vanessa, Ethan, my parents and I, no crowd, no cameras, just four faces I'd known all my life, looking at me like I was a stranger. You couldn't wait, could you? Vanessa hissed. Her makeup was still perfect, but her composure was cracking. You just had to ruin my wedding. I didn't plan any of this, I replied, voice calm. You brought Richard Cole here to impress your guests. I just happened to be the person he's been trying to meet. Don't twist this, she snapped. You blindsided me. I turned to my mother. Mom? Dad? Anything to say? They exchanged a glance. My father cleared his throat. Rachel, honey, you should have told us. We didn't know. No, I cut in. You didn't ask. For years, you never asked, because you were too busy pouring everything into her. My mother's eyes welled up. We were trying to help her get established. She needed the support. And I didn't, I said, laughing bitterly. I was working 80-hour weeks, eating ramen, building something from scratch, while you co-signed Vanessa's apartment lease, funded her MBA with money from my savings account. My father stiffened. We always meant to pay you back. You never did, I said, because you never thought I'd amount to anything, and now that I have, you're scrambling to rewrite the past. Vanessa folded her arms. You think you're better than us now? No, I said softly. I always was, you just refused to see it. Ethan looked like he wanted to disappear. My mother took a shaky step forward. Rachel, we made mistakes. We were just trying to protect you. The business world is cruel, especially to women. And yet, here I am, I replied, standing, thriving, running the company that's about to save your precious Sterling Industries from collapse. The silence that followed was thicker than the velvet curtains around us. Vanessa sank into a chair, shell-shocked. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel small in this family. I felt exactly as big as I was. 2 weeks later, I walked into the sleek glass-paneled boardroom of Sterling Industries, the very company that had been held up to me all my life as the gold standard of success. Today, it was mine to reshape. I wore a tailored black Armani suit, power in fabric form. Gone was the navy wedding dress, the quiet smile. In its place, posture, purpose, and presence. The board members were already seated, murmuring as I entered, their expressions a mix of curiosity, concern, and quiet fear. They all knew who I was now. Richard Cole stood at the head of the table and gestured toward the chair beside him. Miss Mitchell, he said with a nod, shall we begin? I sat, laid out my notes, and looked around the room. In the past few months, I began, Aurora Consulting has carefully reviewed Sterling Industries, its finances, leadership structure, operational bottlenecks. I paused. And we've reached a conclusion. Sterling has potential, but it's been managed by familiarity, not merit. That ends today. Several board members shifted uncomfortably. In the new structure, I continued, roles will be reassigned based on competence, performance, and vision, not legacy or connections. Behind the glass walls, I could see them, my parents and Vanessa, watching from the observation area like courtroom witnesses. Vanessa looked smaller than I'd ever seen her, no longer the golden girl in the spotlight. Just another employee, waiting to find out where she truly stood. As of next quarter, I said, we'll be implementing a complete departmental reorganization. Redundant leadership roles will be eliminated. Talent will be promoted from within, based on actual contribution. I let that sink in. We're not here to punish anyone, I added, but we are here to build something lasting. And that means letting go of the idea that a last name is a qualification. The room went quiet. Then, one by one, heads began to nod. Richard leaned over and whispered, "You're more ruthless than I imagined." I smiled. Not ruthless, just clear-eyed. He chuckled. "And your sister?" "She'll be given an offer," I replied. "Entry-level sales. She can work her way up if she's willing to earn it." Behind the glass, Vanessa lowered her gaze. And for the first time in this building, I wasn't the underdog. I was the architect. The next morning, the new contracts were sent out. One to Vanessa. One to my father, who apparently still held an advisory role he hadn't earned. And one to my mother, who had insisted for years that Rachel just doesn't have the business instincts her sister does. None of them responded for 2 days. On the third day, Vanessa showed up at my office. Gone were the designer heels, the smug smile, the air of invincibility. She wore simple flats, her hair in a loose bun. She looked real. For once. "Do you mean it?" she asked. "Entry level? Starting over?" I nodded. "That's how it works at Aurora. We build from the ground up." Her voice cracked. "I don't know if I can do that." "Then don't," I said gently. "You have a choice." She looked down, then back up. "I want to try. I don't want a handout. I want to be good enough. On my own." It wasn't an apology, but it was something. Later that week, my parents came in. Not to grovel, not to scheme. Just to talk. My mother's voice trembled as she said, "We were wrong. About so many things. But mostly, about you." I didn't offer forgiveness. I didn't need to. What I needed was truth, and now I had it. The rest, I could live without. That night, alone in my office, I pulled open the top drawer of my desk. Inside was my grandmother's locket. I opened it, revealing the tiny note she had written when I was just 23, struggling, broke, and unsure if any of this would ever work. Success isn't about who believes in you at the end. It's about who you believe in at the start. Yourself. She had believed in me when no one else did. Now, the world believed too. But that wasn't the victory. The victory was that I'd never needed their belief to begin with. As I looked down over the city's skyline, I realized something profound. All those years of being underestimated didn't break me. They built me. I wasn't the family disappointment. I was the storm they didn't see coming. And I had only just begun. If you've ever been underestimated, by your own family no less, you know how much it takes to stay silent and let success speak for itself. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What would you have done in my place? What would you say to someone who's still being dismissed for dreaming big? Let this story be your reminder. You don't need permission to build the life you deserve. Believe in yourself, even when no one else does. And if this message resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. More